Hi everyone, so today I'm going to do a little short tutorial on a fun little, you could use it as a card or you can use it as a little gift, whatever, for Christmas, but it's a cute little painting. I'm going to do something similar to this. So this one is a little red ornament on a branch. This one says joy, and you can put whatever you want, but I'm going to show you the basics of how I made that. First, what you need is watercolor paper, because this is mostly watercolor, but you'll notice on this I actually wrote with a white marker. So markers or whatever, something that's kind of waterproof. It should be dry when you write on it, but just in case. So I'm going to show you what I did to make that. What you're going to need is the paper, you're going to need some water, obviously, for your watercolors, and you're going to need a green color, watercolor, any kind of green, blue, and probably a Payne's gray, just to kind of darken, just so that you have some variety in your branches and things, and also a yellowish color. I used red for this ornament. This next one I'm going to do, I think I want to do blue. You can use, I used a yellow for the little cap hanger thing, but if you have a silver color or a gray or whatever, I think I'm going to do a gray on this blue one. But it's really easy to get started, so I just took a round, we don't want to try to reinvent the wheel here, so I took a round, whatever, however big you want it. It fits pretty good on the piece of paper. That's the size of that one. And this one I think I'm going to hang the other way. So I traced around my round object, whatever object you have, get your circle, and then at the top you're going to want your this little hang thing, and so you kind of just find what seems like the center-ish and make a couple of little curved lines because they come up curved. And then the top is a little bit curved upward. That's not as critical because, as you can see in this other picture, you can't really see the top very well. So there's kind of the basic drawing, and then you don't necessarily have to draw this in right now, but you do have a little metal thing that you're going to hang the ornament by. It doesn't have to be perfect. And you see you can kind of see it if you want to draw it in there. Okay, so you have the picture, and I'm actually going to take my eraser and just lighten the picture a little bit because some of this will be lighter. And these kneadable erasers, they're really great for this kind of thing. You can dab, you can form it, you can erase. I like them. Anyway, they're good for artists. So if you don't have one, go get one. Okay, so I have my round shape. It's kind of visible there. And I'm going to use a blue color. You can use any color blue, any color red, green, silver, whatever color you want. One thing you need to remember is just to keep it really tight, so to speak, around your ornament, because this one isn't as rough as some pictures. So the first thing I'm going to do is wet down the entire circle, and again, you want to be really careful that you stay inside the circle. Go wet right up to that line, but don't go over. Turn your paper, whatever you need to do to maintain that line. And this is kind of a fun one. You could do this branch with a pine cone hanging off it. I did one like that one time. Those are cute. You can do Christmas lights if you want to do Christmas lights instead of an ornament. This would make a nice little place card. If you did it small, you could write each person's name on their little card, and then they could take the card home after the meal or whatever. Now, kind of tip it, make sure you're totally wet. Alright, so I'm going to use this blue here. I forgot to wet it. That's okay. Okay, now you got to figure out where your light's coming from. And for me, the light is going to be coming this way. So because it's a circle, you're going to have that little crescent shape highlight. So I'm going to just go with the darkest color on this side. And the red one there, I had to do multiple layers of color to get the red redder. Depending on what color you use, you may have to do it more than once. But do the same process. Wet, carefully wet, because you don't want to disturb the paint underneath. And then apply your paint. So I'm applying a lot of color down on this end, and then I'm going to just start pulling it without getting any more color up on this end. And you kind of want to have the color's going to go all the way around the edge, even if it's lighter. Just because the color does. The highlight isn't right on the very edge of the ornament. So carefully go around that edge and then just pull, and I'm actually going to rinse a little bit and pull some of this color up like this. Actually, I want that base darker. And while it's still wet, you can mess around with the color and where it's at and pull it and push it. Once it starts drying, you can't do that anymore. But I'm going to pull that color up. Need more color here. And keep pulling it up. And then as I get, ooh, that's nice. As I get further up here, I get messier apparently, but I'm going to pull, I got too much water on my brush there. Pull up and pull in. I don't want to cover that white too much. And then when I get all the way up here, and it doesn't have to be super smooth, you don't have to be perfect with this, but do try to keep your brush strokes kind of in that curvature form because it is a sphere. But you see how we've maintained that, oh, I didn't wipe that off very well. See how we've maintained that circular look, but also that highlight. A little bit more color up through here. And then the last thing I'm going to do before I let this part of it dry is I'm going to pull out kind of that curve right in the middle of that, just to maintain that really bright white. So that's kind of how it's going to look. You have the light source, and actually I want to add a little bit more color on this edge. You notice I put paint on my brush, but then I dried most of it off because you don't want a lot of water here. Okay, I like that. Okay, so while that is drying, we're going to do our branch. So the branch is just kind of coming off from the side, and we don't want it to really go over the ornament too much. I'm going to switch brushes to a little bit smaller brush, but not really small. This one's a size 4. And then I'm going to take my greens. And actually I'm going to first start with my yellow. And start with yellow because you want kind of that lighter color, but it is the lightest color, and so you want to get that down first because it's watercolor and you won't be able to see it otherwise. And this is kind of, I guess, your bravery test, but this is going to come down and out I know that's a lot of yellow in there. And then I'm just going to start pulling yellow out. And this one, obviously a lot of this is going to get covered. You just want the color there. And you're going to have a little bit, and we'll add some more yellow to it. I think I want that to be a little bit longer. Just pull that down. And you want this to kind of stay wet. So pull fast. Now I'm going to switch to a blue color. And the blue and yellow, obviously, will make kind of a green color. So the blue won't look blue, but you also got to remember there are kind of blue needles in some pine trees. So kind of get that dropped in there, mixed in. And then I'm going to go to a green, and this is kind of a dark green, but again, whatever colors you have, and pull stuff down. And this is more the color that you want, you know, obviously because it's green, but you don't want to cover up those other colors. So the different colors give it depth and dimension. And it doesn't matter if your brush skips a little bit, that's okay. And this is where you kind of decide on your shape and see how that's covering, getting close to covering the little hanger part of things. And remember, the bristles mainly grow up, but they do grow down too, so don't forget to put some down. And then I'm going to take a Payne's Gray, which is a really dark color. That may seem weird, but you need to have those really darks in there too. And because everything's wet, it's going to mix anyway, so won't be so sharp and harsh looking as it might be otherwise. And don't worry about it mixing, and it looks kind of like a puddle for a minute, but you need all those colors, and later we'll add some more detail in. Okay, the last thing I'm going to do on this branch is take some brown. If I can get some, I forgot to get more out on my palette. And I'm just going to drop it in. I may have to get more out here. Just here and there, wherever you feel like the branch is, drop that down in there. And then it kind of follows. Oop, then I get a lot. That's okay though. I might add a little dark to that. Maybe not. I'll add some more brown in a minute. Anyway, throw that brown in there. It's part of your branch. We're just going to leave all of that for about 3 or 4 minutes to dry. If you want to blow dry it, which is what I'm going to go do really quick, just to make sure it's all dry for the next step. That's a fast way to keep going. Okay, so I've got this all blow dried, it's all dry. And the next thing I'm going to do is paint this the hanger part in before we get too much more of the upper branches in. And for this one I'm going to do a very, very light gray, so I'm just going to use a Payne's Gray, but I'm going to water it way down so that it's not super dark. Barely, you want to be able to see that something's there. Sorry, I'm going to switch brushes really quick. But you don't want it to be overpowering. So you may or may not even be able to see that on camera. The other thing to remember on this is that you still have a light source with this. So when I get over here to the other side, I am going to pull out again like I did on the ball and see how that branch goes over. Don't worry about that, just go over it. We're going to have other branches. I'm going to take my brush again and I'm going to pull out just a streak. You may not be able to see that, but it just adds a little bit of dimension to that. There's a little bit of color. The other thing I want to do is just really quick darken up kind of the back side and the very bottom right there, so that it looks like there's some dimension there. That might have been a little much, but it's all right. And then just pull back a little bit of that. Okay, and the other thing I'm going to do is take that gray color again, but a little bit darker, and I'm just going to throw this little hook in here, but I am going to avoid the one branch because I don't want it to look like it goes over. I want the branches to look like they go over the hook. And then just kind of put a little straight piece that kind of looks like a little hook that comes up and hooks it to the tree. But we won't see that part of it, so we're not going to worry about painting that part of it. Okay. I'm going to pull back that color just a little bit and even out that edge. Somehow that got a little off on me. Okay, so I decided that the ball, I wanted it a little bit darker blue. So I'm actually going to put another coat of blue on it. So since it's all dry, I'm going to wet it with clean water. You don't want to do this with your dirty water, but you got to be really, really careful not to disturb the layer underneath, especially as you get over here towards your highlight. So just carefully put some water on the top, spread it around. Make sure though too that you're getting up to the edge, because if you don't, you'll be able to tell that you didn't. And extra careful again, like I said, when you get around here to this highlight, you don't want to be pulling color off the bottom layer into that highlight. But you need it there because you want it to be a fairly smooth transition from everything else to that highlight. Okay, make sure you have the whole thing damp. And then I'm going to take more blue with as little water as possible again, and I'm going to darken. I guess I need a little bit of water to get the paint flowing here, but darken this edge again. And I don't want to do a whole lot when it gets towards that highlight, but I do want to bring that down and around. And up. And again, bring that across, kind of similar to the way it would go. And I'm going to also darken up a little bit around this edge. Looks like it already dried on me a little bit, so we'll have to wet that again here in a second. So with my clean water, I'll pull that in again so that it fades. Make sure everything's fading. Looks like that edge dried as well, a little bit. Okay, and then I'm going to make sure again, I'm going to pull that highlight back out. I want a little more color in here though. as long as it's not going to bloom on me, because that was starting to dry. I think I'm good. Alright, I'm going to let, actually while that's drying, I'm going to come back up here to my branches, and now that everything's dry, it looks kind of like indistinct, so to speak. So I'm going to take some of those darker colors now, the dark green and the dark, the Payne's gray, and I'm going to add some more branches in and amongst all this in these darker colors. And this is actually, it looks really dark like it's Payne's gray, but this is actually the green. And remember, you're coming from the front, from the branch, so you want to keep them coming out the same way. And bring them out. I'm running out of all my colors here. And let them go over top of that hook and things now, because you've got that all taken care of. Now I'm going to go into my Payne's gray. Just do a little bit more really dark, just a few. I like Payne's gray because it is actually a blue-gray color. And some of that can come in, you know, you don't have to start from the middle, but make sure you're coming out the same direction. This is a bushy Christmas tree. Anyway, kind of like that. So I am going to let that dry. It looks like I want to take and just pull out the edges of this highlight a little bit. They got kind of funky looking. Okay, I'm going to let that dry, and then we'll move on with our last step. So I got that all dry. One thing I did remember that I wanted to do before was to add a little bit more of that brown in this branch, kind of where I had it before, just kind of darken it so that it's a little more visible. You don't have to do that, but it gives a little more depth to it. So now we need to decide what we're going to do with this one. For me, I think what I wanted to do was do some snowflakes. You could draw snowman. You could do this with paint. This was done with a white, it's called Jelly Roll Tin. If you have like something like this, these are good, these are fun. Depending on what you want to do, you know, you could put a Christmas tree in green or whatever, but they're kind of fun because you have a lot more control with these. So I'm going to do some snowflakes. I don't know if I want a snowflake right in the middle, but online there's a lot of different, you know, you can see, draw a snowflake and it'll give you a million different ideas as to what snowflakes look like. So get online, and also if you type in ornaments, you'll have again a million ideas as to what you could put on the front of your ornament. And again, you don't have to draw it, you can paint it, but I like to draw it. Again, for the white to stand out, you're going to have to use a white marker or gouache or white acrylic to get it to stand out on the darker blue, because we didn't mask out any of that to begin with. So have fun decorating. I'm going to decorate this one, and I'd love to see what you guys put on yours. So. Oh, the other thing to keep in mind is, again, it is a round ornament, so keep some of your lines curved. So it looks like it's sitting on a round ornament, not so that it looks like it's sitting, you know, on a flat surface. This is the kind of the fun, creative part as far as what do you want your snowflake to look like. In this particular pen, I actually have to go over everything several times. Depending on what you find a white marker. You can do a silver Sharpie, you know, those work really nice. Gold Sharpies, those are really nice. Just get creative and experiment with what you find. And remember, as you get closer to the highlight, it's not going to show up as well, but that's kind of how it's supposed to be. So. And this gel pen, for some reason, it has to be wiped off semi-frequently. I don't know why, but it's nice if you don't, you know, you need to tape or somehow fix your paper to something so that it doesn't buckle when you're painting, or at least that's helpful. But it's nice not to tape it down to your surface, tape it to something else so that you can move your paper around. I've watched a lot of artists and they can paint really well with it in one spot, but I am not that good. And so I like to be able to move my paper and turn and spin and work with it like that. That one needs a little more something. Anyway, so you kind of get the idea of how to make an ornament. That was off. Either painting or place cards, or, you know, whatever you want to do there. One thing you can do also, make sure you go around the ornament so that it kind of goes off on an edge so that it doesn't look flat again as well. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I look forward to painting with you again. Okay, so I finished up the rest of my little snowflakes, and you can see it's just kind of cute little snowflake ornament, and I decided because there was two that maybe I needed one more. So I did one more, a green one, and obviously you need green, and this one kind of goes in the middle. So it would be I don't even know if I can get this all on video, but the red, and then the green, and then the blue to kind of finish off the set. So anyway, that's what I got for you. If you enjoyed these, you can like and subscribe to my page, and I hope you go out and I hope you have fun painting these.